In this video, I'm going to do an unboxing of a GTX 1660 Super. And even though it's not a new card, it's still a card that's still available as Nvidia's lower end GPU lineup, so it's still pretty much very relevant to take a look at. And this one's from Colorful, it's their Battle Axe version, which is basically their lowest end model. But as you can see, the box is still really nice, and as you'll see later, the card is also still pretty nice, especially for this price point. And on the back here, you just see some of the features, like they say they use high quality electronic components, probably for the VRM, and select the GPU core, which just might mean, well, it passes QA testing, so it shouldn't have any problem, as well as a lot of the Nvidia features that you get with other Turing cards as well on the bottom here. And, well, you don't see the recommended specifications of your PC and the specifications of the card because it's actually not on here, it's on the bottom here. And there you go, the features as well as the minimum system requirements for this graphics card, which is pretty standard for a GTX 1660 Super. And this is a card from Colorful, so this is from China, so it's a bit different. That's why it has some Chinese lettering on the sticker, for example. And once you open it, you can see that you have the Colorful quick guide, which is a typo, I guess. It should have been quick start guide, but like I said, this is a Chinese company, so maybe their grammar isn't the best. But their product is still really nice, especially once you see that the packaging is really well built as well. They use lots of actual like foam padding for the graphics card, so I don't see any reason for it to get damaged in shipping at all. And it's a really nice packaging, especially for a card on this price point, which is way above the others, which is using way cheaper packaging materials. So this is already a plus for Colorful with the better packaging. And once we open the card, which is inside this anti-static bag, you can see the card itself. And I think the most striking thing about it is its red and black color scheme, which is a bit kind of like an AMD color scheme to me. So it doesn't really scream Nvidia to me. And in fact, it looks like an AMD card. So if you're not into red, then this might not be for you. But otherwise, the card itself actually looks really nice. And I think that the heatsink is large enough for a GTX 1660 Super, even though it only has one heat pipe, which seems to kind of wrap around the base and towards the two ends of the heatsink. It should be enough. This isn't a really high power card. And they also seem to have thermal pads to connect the VRM as well as the VRAM to the heatsink, while the VRM actually has a separate heatsink here, as you can see, which is separate from the main heatsink. But they're all cooled by a heatsink, so it should stay nice and cool, especially this thing being a GDDR6 card, which runs a bit hotter. And on the back, you can see you have a backplate, which is actually pretty nice looking. It's not just a plain backplate, they actually put some thought into it and put some artful, like colorful branding, as well as some stripes and logos and stuff. The only gripe I have is they put way too many stickers on the back here, which kind of ruins the look because it makes it not that clean, but it's kind of the case with a lot of cards, so I wouldn't give them too much flack for it. And on the top here, you can see that they have the GeForce GTX logo, so in case you're wondering if this is an AMD card because it's red, it's actually a GeForce card. And you also have a single 8-pin, which is pretty standard for GTX 1660 Super, which allows a bit of power headroom. And speaking of power, you can see the shunt right beside the 8-pin, so if you're trying to do a shunt mod, you can actually do it without taking apart the card and probably still keep your warranty if you can wipe it off after you're done if you're trying to RMA it. So yeah, this card is pretty good for overclocking, I guess, if you do some shunt mod, especially because the heatsink is actually pretty large with dual fans. And the heatsink is a lot bigger than the Zotac card, which I've taken a look as well, which I'll upload a video of. So this is pretty nice for GTX 1660 Super. And being a horizontal fin design, it has a vent on the back which will exhaust some air, as well as the DisplayPort, HDMI and DVI outputs for your monitor. And on the bottom, you have the typical PCIe 3.0 connector for your motherboard connection. And again, the heatsink is spanning the whole length of the card. And it has two fans which are fairly large and cover the whole heatsink, which also again covers all the memory chips as well as the VRM. So it is pretty well cooled. And speaking of the backplate, they actually also use some thermal pads to connect it to the VRM side, which I forgot to show, but they actually do have a thermal pad, so they're actually using the backplate for that, aside from just strengthening the card, which, by the way, is also really stiff. And it's really nice to see because after seeing some of the Asus cards, which are really flimsy for the cheap models, this is really nice to see that they make a card that's really well designed and the heatsink is properly fastened onto the card that doesn't flex that much. And yeah, overall it's a pretty well built card, especially for GTX 1660 Super. And for a card in this price range, you really don't need much more than this, and it really doesn't make sense to buy a high-end GTX 1660 Super and pay a whole lot of premium like the Asus Strix, for example. But yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you do, please leave a like and maybe click subscribe to see more of my future videos. Thanks for watching.